So for our first lesson sa quarter number 2, module number 1 is illustrates situations that involves the following variations. So yung mga variations na yun would be direct variation, inverse variation, joint variation, tsaka combined variation. So but before we move on discussing mga specific variations na yun, dito muna tayo sa may background information regarding this lesson. So yung background information natin is about yung 32.3% ng forest natin na wala na. So back in 1990 to 2005, nag-conduct ng studies yung government natin regarding our forest. So nalaman nila na 32.3% na yung nawala dahil sa illegal logging. So dahil dito, nagpatupad ng bill o gumawa ng bill yung mga House of Representatives natin regarding students na kailangan nila magtanim ng tigsa 10 trees bago sila makagraduate. So dito sa may table natin, pinapakita yung number of students doon sa may upper row and the number of trees planted doon sa may bottom row. So yung sa may upper row, these are the number of students, and then sa lower row, that will be number of trees planted. So kung meron kang isang estudyante, since magtatanim siya ng 10 trees, kung meron kang isang estudyante, meron kang 10 trees na matatanim. Kung dalawa na yung estudyante mo, a total of 20 trees. Kapag tatlo na yung estudyante mo, a total of 30 trees. Now, kung mapapansin niyo yung pattern, yung number of students sa taas, multiply mo lang by 10. So, 1 times 10, you have 10. 2 times 10, you have 20. 10 times 3, you have 30. Dahil nga kada isang estudyante, 10 yung itatanim nilang puno. So, 4 sila. 10 times 4, 40. 5 times 10, 50. 6 times 10, 60. So, yung 7 would be 7 times 10 is 70. 8 times 10 is 80. 9 times 10, 90. 10 times 10 is 100. So kung titignan ninyo sa may table natin, habang dumadami yung estudyante, dumadami din yung puno na may tatanim. So you need that concept para masagutan yung mga following questions. So yung first question is, what happens to the number of trees planted when the number of graduates is doubled or tripled? How many graduates are needed in order for a community to plant 1,000 trees? What's the connection between the number of graduates and the number of trees planted? So yung first 2 questions masasagutin natin kapag na-double yung number of students, na-double din yung number of trees. Kapag na-triple din yung number of trees. Now, kailangan mo magtanim ng 1,000 trees. 1,000. Ilan kaya kailangan ng estudyante para dyan? So since minumultiply mo by 10 para makuha mo yung number of students para mapunuhan yung 1,000 trees, ang kailangan mo dyan is 100 students since 10 times 100 is 1,000. So yan lang yung simple example regarding variations. Kung mapapansin ninyo, kapag tumataas ang quantity sa isang bagay, tumataas din yung sa ilalim. So kung tumataas yung number of students, tumataas din yung number of trees na mapaplant. Vice versa, kapag binawasan mo naman yung estudyante na magtatanim, mababawasan din yung number of trees na may tatanim. So let's say nag-start ka sa 100 students, so meron kang 1,000 trees. Kung babawasan mo yan, kung 10 na lang sila, from 1,000, 100 na lang yung matitira o matatanim. Kung bawasan mo pa yung 10, let's say 5 na lang sila. So from 100 trees, ang matatanim mo na lang 50 kasi 5 na lang. So kung bumababa din yung value ng number of students, bumababa din yung trees na may tatanim mo. So this is an example of a direct variation. So before we move on, i-define muna natin ano ba yung variation. So variation is any change in some quantity due to change in another. So ibig sabihin, kung meron kang isang value na, let's say, tumataas, yung isa pang value na direct involved sa value na is tumataas din. So parehas sila tumataas yung value. Meron ding isang variation na pag tumataas yung isang value ng isang bagay, yung isang bagay na nakakonect sa kanya is bumababa. Kumbaga inverse, baliktad. So a variation when you change in some quantity due to change in another. May some quantity na tumataas and then yung isa pa tumataas din. Or yung isang bagay tumataas and then yung isang value ng isang bagay is bumababa, pabaliktad. Isang example nito na nakikita natin is yung binibili natin sa palengke. Or this table, this example, kapag dumadami yung estudyante, dumadami din yung trees na tinatanim mo. Another example is kapag bumibili kayo sa palengke, kapag mas mabigat o kapag mas marami kang binili na, let's say, isda, mas malaki yung babayaran mo. Mas mabigat, mas malaki yung presyo na kailangan bayaran. For instance, kung bibili kayo ng 1 kilo, magbabayad ka ng 100 pesos. Kung mas mabigat pa, let's say, 2 kilogram, kailangan mo magbayad ng 200 pesos. Kung mas mabigat pa, kailangan mo magbayad ng 300 pesos. Kung mapapansin niyo, tignan nyo lang yung number. Kapag tumataas yung number dito sa may weight, tumataas din yung number dito sa may price. So from 1 kilogram, 2 kilogram, 3 kilogram, dito sa kabila, 100 pesos, 200 pesos, 300 pesos. This is an example of direct variation. Meron pang isa, yung inverse variation. Pahapiyaw lang para malaman natin ano yung concept ng variation. Yung speed with respect to time. So let's say, meron kang sasakyan and then ito yung distance na kailangan ng travel. So this is, let's say, point A and this is point B. Then this is your vehicle. So kapag nagta-travel ka from point A to point B, mapapansin mo na consume ka ng time. So kung titignan mo, kung mabagal ka, bigyan natin ng speed. Yung speed natin, halimbawa, is 1 kilometer per hour. Kung mabagal ka, para makapunta ka from point A to point B, magko-consume ka ng maraming time. Let's say yung time mo is 15 seconds. Kung mabagal ka, mas maraming time yung kinoconsume mo para makaabot ka sa point B. Itaas natin yung speed mo. Let's say 2 kilometers per hour. Medyo mabilis na konti. So kung mapapansin mo, nag-consume ka ng mas mababang time kasi mas mabilis ka na from point A to point B. So let's say 10 seconds. Yung itaas pa natin yung speed mo, gawin natin 3 kilometers per hour. Halimbawa. So from point A to point B, naging 5 seconds na lang halimbawa. So mapapansin mo, inverse, pabaliktad yung relationship nila. Habang tumataas yung speed mo, bumababa yung time. So from 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, pataas ng pataas, yung speed mo, yung time mo from 15 seconds, naging 10 seconds, tapos 5 seconds. Pababa naman yung number dito. Dito pataas, dito pababa yung number. So this is an example of inverse variation. So tumataas yung value dun sa isa, dun sa kabila, bumababa naman, baliktaran. So now dito tayo sa type of variations. So yung first type is direct variation. So ano yung direct variation? If two quantities are related in such a way that the increase or decrease in one quantity results in a corresponding increase or decrease in another quantity, then such relation is called a direct variation. In this type, if a variable x increases in a given ratio, then y also increases in the same ratio. Similarly, a decrease in x causes a decrease in y. When two quantities say x and y are directly related, it is said that y varies directly as x or x varies directly as y. The following statements also indicate a direct relationship between two variables or quantities. So for instance, ang gusto niyo lang sabihin dito, gagawa natin ng illustration para mas madaling matandaan ano yung direct variation. Let's say meron kang value for x and then value for y. Kapag tumataas yung value ng x, tumataas din yung value ng y. Yung ratio ng x, yung ratio ng pagtaas ng x, yun din yung ratio ng pagtaas ng y. Vice versa. Not vice versa. Or, if you have x and then if you have y, yung ratio ng pagbaba o pag-decrease ng value ng x, yun din yung ratio ng pag-decrease ng y. So, pag tumataas yung ratio ng x, tumataas din yung ratio ng y. Kapag bumababa yung ratio ng x, bumababa din ang ratio ng y. Ganyan yung direct variation. Direct yung relationship nila. So, sa mathematical statement, pwede mo siya isulat as y varies directly as x. Pwede ganyan. Or, y is directly proportional to x. Or, meron pang isa, y is proportional to x. Pero pwede din yan. Yan yung pangatlong way na pwede mo isulat. Y is directly proportional to x. Or, y is proportional to x. So other examples that illustrates this type of variation are the following. Do sa may table sa may module ninyo. The more men at work, the more work is done. So the amount of work varies directly as the number of men working. Well in this case siguro depende yun. So nung college kami nagkwento yung engineer na professor namin tungkol sa exam nila, sa licensure examination nila. Kapag ba malapit na yung deadline, kapag may trabaho tapos malapit na yung deadline, kailangan mo ba magdagdag ng trabahador o hindi na para ma-meet yung deadline? Well, ang sabi niya, huwag ka na magdadagdag ng trabahador. I-meet mo na lang yung penalty dito sa deadline. Kasi hindi naman ibig sabihin na mas maraming kang tawes, maraming kang matatapos na trabaho. Depende kung paano sila magtrabaho. So yung first example, well, most of the time, this is possible. The more men at work, the more work is done. Nakikita naman natin yung sa classroom, mas marami naglilinis ng room, mas maraming natatapos. Kung mas maraming estudyante nagtutulong-tulong, mas madaling matapos yung trabaho sa loob ng room. More borrowed money would mean more interest to be paid. The interest is directly proportional to the amount of money borrowed. So kung nanghirap ka ng pera, mas malaki yung pera na hinihiram mo, mas malaki yung interest yung kailangan mong bayaran. So, madagdag ko lang, kapag bibili kayo sa supermarket, mas nakakatipid yung bibili ka ng maramihan kaysa dun sa tingi-tingi. So, pag mas malaki kasi binibili mo, kung titignan mo, mas makakamura ka. Depende dun sa dun sa quantity. Mas makakamura kung mas maramihan yung binibili kaysa dun sa paisa-isa or patingi-tingi. The more entries, the more chances of winning. Yan yung madalas natin naririnig sa commercial. Kung mas marami ka nga namang entries na isasali, mas malaki yung chance na manalo ka. Sa loto, kung mas marami kang ticket na hawak, mas malaki yung chance mo na manalo. So those are just few of examples regarding direct variation. So tatandaan nyo lang yung illustration na ginawa ko. Yung ratio ng pagtaas ng x is the same way as the ratio ng pagtaas ng y. Kung bumababa yung x, bumababa din yung y. Ganyan yung idea ng direct variation. Now, the next type of variation is inverse or indirect variation. So what is inverse or indirect variation? If two variables x and y are related such that when x increases in a given ratio, y decreases in the same ratio, then it is said that y varies inversely as x. So sinusulat natin ito sa mathematical statement na y varies inversely as x. Meaning, an increase in one quantity results in a corresponding decrease in another quantity. Also, a decrease in one quantity results in a corresponding decrease in another quantity. In addition to that, yung product ng y and x are constant. Yung product nila will be constant. So, doon sa direct variation, naglagay ako ng illustration paano nyo madaling matatandaan ano yung direct variation. So, dito sa inverse gagawa din tayo. So, let's say you have x and then you have y. So, dito sa may inverse or direct variation, kung yung value ng x mo increases, yung ratio naman nung babago ng y decreases. So kung makikita mo, pag tumataas yung value ng x, bumababa din yung value ng y. Yung ratio ng pagtaas ng x, siya din yung ratio ng pagbaba ng y. So doon sa direct, parehas silang tumataas. Dito sa inverse, tumataas yung x, bumababa yung value ng y. Or, pwede din, kapag bumababa yung value ng x, tumataas naman yung value ng y. So, baliktaran sila. So, we have the following examples para sa inverse variation. First is, the more men at work, the less time is needed to finish the work. So, kung mas marami kang trabahador, mas madaling matapos yung trabaho. Tulad na sabi ko kanina sa classroom, kung mas marami kang estudyante, mabilis matapos, mas kaunti yung time na kailangan para matapos yung trabaho. The time to finish a work varies inversely as the number of men working. If a vehicle moves faster, less time is needed to cover the same distance. So, the time used to travel is inversely proportional to the speed of movement of a vehicle. Third is, the more persons are to share a ride in a taxi, the lower the amount of individual fare. So, in Filipino, pag mas marami daw nakasakay sa taxi, mas mababa yung babayaran ng bawat isa. The amount of individual varies inversely as the number of persons sharing a ride in a taxi. So, yung maalala nyo yung blue taxi, di ko alam kung pwede yun, no? Kapag mas marami daw kayo nakasakay sa isang taxi, mas mababa yung babayaran ng fare. Kasi parehas lang naman yung distance dito to travel. Para sa tricycle, fix yung babayaran nyo, 60 pesos o 50 pesos. Pero kung mas marami kayong nakasakay, kung maghahati-hati kayo, mas mababa yung babayaran nyo. Kung isa ka lang, mas mataas yung babayaran mo. Pero kung 5 kayo, mas mababa yung babayaran mo pag naghahati-hati kayo. Next type of variation is in joint variation. So what is joint variation? Joint variation is when one quantity varies directly with respect, remember, varies directly with respect to two or more quantities. Para siyang direct variation, pero instead of one quantity lang, meron kang two quantities or more. Then we have a joint variation, meaning an increase in the variables x and z will cause an increase in the variable y. Correspondingly, as x and z decreases, y also decreases. This is just similar to direct variation but involves more than one variable. So, dun sa may direct variation, yung value ng x and y tumataas. Sa inverse variation, yung value ng x tumataas, yung value ng y bumababa. Or inversely. Sa joint variation, para siyang direct variation pero meron kang additional letter. So, kapag tumataas yung value ng palitan natin. gawin natin x, z, tapos y. So sa joint variation, meron ka ng additional quantity, yung z. So pag tumataas yung value ng z, x and z, tumataas din yung value ng y. Parang direct variation. But in this case, meron kong additional quantity. Or pwede din x, tapos z, tapos y. Kapag bumababa yung value ng z, x, at saka value ng z, bumababa din yung value ng y. Yung ratio ng pagtaas ng x and z, yun din yung ratio ng pagtaas ng y. Yung ratio ng pagbaba ng x at saka z, yun din yung ratio ng pagbaba ng y. So, yan ang tatandaan yung illustration para sa joint variation. Doon sa direct, wala tayong z. Sa joint, nagdagan, so meron ka ng 3 letters. So, pwede mo isulat sa mathematical statement yung joint variation as y varies jointly as x and z. Ganyan. Y varies jointly as x and z. Or y is jointly proportional to x and z. Now we have the following example para sa joint variation. Most of the time, ang example dito yung mga bagay na may 3 dimensions tulad ng isang cube. Now, for number 1, the volume of a box increases as the length and width increases. So, yung volume of a box is jointly proportional to the length and width. For a given interest rate, the total interest is less if the principal amount of the borrowed money is lower and is returned to the lender sooner. The total interest varies jointly as the principal amount and time used before returning the borrowed money. The longer the length and width a rectangular lot, the more expenses for the fencing material is needed. So, ibig sabihin, kung mas malaki yung length at width ng lote mo, mas malaki yung gagastusin mo dun sa pagbabako. So, those are just few of the examples regarding joint variation. Basically, parang direct variation lang siya, kaya lang meron ka pang isang kinoconsider na quantity. So, meron ka ng additional quantity other than x para makita mo yung value ng y. Now, for the last type of variation, yung combined variation. So, ano yung combined variation? This relation, combined variation is a relation that involves more than one type of variation. So, ibig sabihin, from the title itself, combine, meron kang mga variations na pinag-combine. Namely, yung joint at saka yung inverse variation, ipagko-combine sila para mabuo yung combined variation. So, when a variable changes as 2 or more quantities changes, then such relations is said to be combined. Suppose we have 4 variables, namely w, x, y, and z. There is a combined variation if, for example, y varies jointly as x and z, and inversely as w. So, ganito yung issue niya. Gagamit tayo ulit ng illustration. So, let's say we have x, we have z, and then we have w, and then we have y. So, ang mangyayari dyan, kapag tumataas yung value ng x, tumataas yung value ng z, tumataas yung value ng w, yung value ng y, depende kung kano mataas yung value ng w. So, yung y pwedeng tumaas, pwedeng bumaba. So, 4 na yung quantities na tinitignan mo, o more than actually kahit ilan. Basta, it involves more than 2 variation. namely yung direct at saka, namely yung joint at saka yung inverse variation. So kung isusulat ko yan in a equation form, ganito yung tsura niya. So kung titingnan natin, y is equal to x and z over w. So yung k doon, i-discuss natin sa future lesson. Yung k is tinatawag ng constant of variation. So ganyan siya sinusulat. So yung value ng y, depende kung gaano kalaki yung value ng w. So kung yung value ng w is mababa, kumpara doon sa product ng x and z, yung y mo pataas. Pero kung mababa kung mataas yung value ng W mo, kaysa doon sa product ng X and Z, yung Y mo bababa. So, depende yung value ng Y doon sa value ng W. So, ganyan yung combined variations. Combination ng dalawang variation. Combination ng joint tsaka inverse. Pag pinag-combine yung dalawang variation na yan, ito yung lilitaw. So just an addition, combined variation is written this way. So parang y varies jointly. Jointly as x and z. So kung mapapansin ninyo, yan na yung first variation natin, yung joint variation. And inversely as w. So ito yung second na variation natin, inverse variation. So sa combined variation, literally combination ng dalawang variation, yung joint at saka yung inverse. So ganito yung mathematical statement niya. Y varies jointly as x and z, and inversely as w. So tulad kanina, isusulat ko lang yung tsura niya. Kapag gumawa ka na equation, it will be ganyan. Meron din yung direct. Yung direct variation, sige, ilalagay ko na lang sa susunod na lesson natin paano yung direct, inverse, tsaka joint variation. Pero sa combined variation, ganyan. Okay, to summarize lang kung ano yung idea ng direct, inverse, joint, at combined variations. Sa direct variation, yung value ng x and y mo is nag-increase proportionally. So yung ratio ng pagtaas ng x, ito yung ratio ng pagtaas ng y. Para silang lumalaki yung value. Or vice versa. Pag bumababa yung value ng x mo, bumababa din yung value ng y. So parehas na tumataas or parehas na bumababa. Sa inverse variation naman, kapag tumataas yung value ng x mo, bumababa yung value ng y, ng isang quantity. Vice versa, kapag bumababa yung value ng x, bumababa yung value ng y. So kung titignan mo yung difference ng direct at inverse, yung direct, parehas na tumataas yung x and y. Sa inverse, baliktaran. Sa joint variation, parang direct variation din. Ang difference lang, may nadagdag kang isang quantity. So, this means kapag tumataas yung value ng x and z, tumataas din yung value ng y. Pag bumababa yung value ng x and z, bumababa din yung value ng y. Sa combined variation, which is combination ng inverse at joint, pag tumataas yung value ng x and y, x and z, or pati yung w taas din natin, yung y, well, it depends. Pwedeng tumaas, pwedeng bumaba. Same with pag mababa yung value ng x, mababa yung value ng z, mababa yung value ng w, yung value ng y natin depende. pwedeng tumaas, pwedeng bumaba. So, ganyan yung concept na yung apat na variation natin. Sa direct variation, parehas na tumataas. Sa inverse na variation, baliktaran. Sa joint variation, lahat sila tumataas or lahat sila bumababa. Sa combined variation, pag tumataas yung x, z, and w, yung value ng y, depende.